The warship Thalos Claw cut through space like a predator through water. Its dark metal hull absorbed light rather than reflected it. Only the pulsing red glow from its engine ports revealed its presence against the black of space. On the command deck, Commander Vexara stood with her back straight and her scaled hands clasped behind her. She watched the main screen with unblinking yellow eyes. Her species, the Thalosians, evolved from desert hunters on a world with 3 suns. Her skin was tough and ridged, colored in patterns of copper and bronze. The flexible crest on her head rose slightly as she focused on the small Earthship displayed on the screen. "Time to intercept?" she asked. Her voice had a metallic quality that made the human translators crackle. 8 minutes, Commander," replied Officer Drez from his station. Like all junior officers, he kept his eyes lowered when speaking to her. Vexara nodded. She had earned her title, the Unflinching, through 17 years of perfect service to the Thalosian Empire. 7 human outposts had fallen to her tactics in the past Earth year alone. This would be the 8th. The human vessel shows no sign. "They have detected us," said Sub-Commander Krell, her second in command. Krell was older than Vexara. His scales faded to a dull copper. Their shields are minimal. Weapons systems appeared dormant. "As expected," Vexara said. "These science. Vessels rely on speed, not strength." She walked to the central platform, where a 3-dimensional map showed their position relative to the human ship. The U.E.'s Horizon, a research vessel studying the gas formations in the neutral zone. "Neutral zone?" Krell repeated with a hiss. "Of contempt. The Empire recognizes no such thing." "Indeed," Vexara agreed. "What the humans call neutral, we call not yet claimed." The officers around her made the quick throat-clicking sound that passed for Thalosian laughter. They respected her, but more importantly, they feared her. Fear was the foundation of Thalosian command. Vexara had sent 3 of her own officers to execution for showing weakness in battle. The crew knew this. They worked with perfect efficiency. Vexara touched the ceremonial staff at her side. It was made from the spine of the first enemy she had killed in personal combat. The staff marked her as a fleet commander, one of only 8 in the entire Empire. "Magnify Sector 4, she ordered. The screen zoomed in on the human ship. It was small compared to the Thalos Claw, barely 1/8 its size. Its white hull reflected the distant starlight. The design was typically human, curved and smooth, where Thalosian ships were angular and sharp. "Scan for life forms," Vexara said. Officer Mev worked her console. Scans show 22 humans aboard. Standard crew for a vessel this size. Vexara's crest rose higher with pleasure. 22 new slaves for the Empire's work camps. And perhaps some useful technology as well. Intelligence reports suggested this particular science vessel might be testing new shield harmonics, technology the Empire desired. "Weapons status?" she asked. "All disruptors charged and ready," replied the weapons officer. "Boarding parties standing by in launch bays 1 through 3. Vexara considered her options. She could destroy the vessel with a single command, but that would waste potential slaves and technology. The humans were fragile, but useful workers, and their minds often contained valuable information. "We will take them intact," she decided. "Prepare for capture protocol. Deploy disruption field on my mark." The bridge crew worked quickly, adjusting their stations. The disruption field would disable the human ship's engines and communications. It was a standard tactic that had worked many times before. 5 minutes to optimal range, Officer Drez announced. Vexara moved to her command chair, but did not sit. She never sat during battle operations, even ones as simple as this. Thalosian commanders showed no relaxation in the face of duty. "Any change in the human vessel's status?" she asked. "None. Commander, Krell reported. They continue on their previous course. No indication of alarm. Good. Vexara's clawed fingers tapped against her staff. This will be quick. The stars streaked by on the view screen as the Phalos claw closed the distance. Soon the human ship grew from a small dot to a clearly visible vessel. Vexara could make out its name written in human letters across the hull. 3 minutes to optimal range, Dres updated. Vexara felt the familiar tightness in her chest that came before combat. Not fear. Thelosian commanders did not feel fear, but anticipation. Her species lived for conquest. It was written in their genetic code, reinforced by thousands of years of cultural development. Prepare boarding teams, she ordered. I will lead the first wave myself. This announcement caused Krell to look up in surprise. Commander, is that necessary for such a minor operation? Vexara fixed her gaze on him. Are you questioning my decision, Sub-Commander? Krell immediately lowered his eyes. No, Commander. I merely meant that your skills might be better reserved for more significant targets. I have not maintained my edge by delegating all boarding actions, Vexara replied. Besides, something about this vessel interests me. She couldn't explain the feeling. The Empire's intelligence network had flagged this particular ship for special attention. There was something about its mission that warranted her personal involvement. Vexara had learned to trust these instincts. 1 minute to optimal range, Dres called out. Vexara moved toward the exit. Krell, you have the bridge. Execute the disruption field the moment we reach range. I will meet my boarding team in Launch Bay 1. Yes, Commander, Krell acknowledged Dot as she walked through the corridors of her ship. Crew members pressed themselves against the walls to let her pass. None made eye contact. This was proper respect for a fleet commander. Dot in the launch bay. 12 soldiers stood at attention. They wore the black armor of Thelosian boarding specialists, with helmets that enhanced their already formidable senses. They carried disruptor rifles that could be set to stun or kill. We take the humans alive, Vexara instructed as she checked her own weapon. Priority targets are the captain and chief science officer. Secure the engine room and bridge first. Yes. Commander, the soldiers responded in unison. The ship's internal communication system activated. Disruption field deployed, came Krell's voice. Human vessel is experiencing system failures. Their engines are offline. Communications disabled. Perfect, Vexara said. She felt the familiar rush of coming victory. Board their vessel. The launch bay doors opened, revealing the stars and the now helpless human ship floating before them. Vexara stepped into the boarding craft with her soldiers, ready for what should be another easy conquest for the glory of the Thelosian Empire. What she couldn't know was that this routine mission would change everything she understood about herself, her empire, and the strange soft creatures called humans. The boarding craft connected to the human vessel with a hard thud. Vexara felt the impact through her boots. The seals engaged with a hiss, creating an airtight passage between the ships. Her soldiers moved into position, weapons ready. Breach. On my signal, she ordered. The lead soldier placed a small device against the human ship's airlock. It glowed red, then green. With a sharp bang, the locks disengaged. Go, Vexara commanded. The soldiers poured through the opening. Vexara followed close behind, her disruptor drawn. The interior of the U's horizon was bright compared to the dim red lighting of Thelosian ships. The walls were white and smooth. The air smelled different, cleaner, but with odd scents she recognized as human. Emergency lights flashed along the corridors. Alarms sounded, but they were weak and intermittent. The disruption field had done its work well. Left team, secure. The engine room, Vexara ordered. Right team, with me to the bridge. The soldiers split into 2 groups. Vexara led her team forward, moving quickly through the main corridor. They encountered no resistance. The humans were likely hiding or trapped by failing systems. At the first junction, they found a human crewman trying to access an emergency panel. He turned, eyes wide with fear at the sight of the Thelosian boarding party. Before he could react, one of the soldiers fired. The blue energy of a stun blast hit the man in the chest. He collapsed to the floor. "Secure him," Vexara ordered. A soldier quickly bound the unconscious human's hands with restraints. They continued forward. The bridge was 2 levels up. They found the lift system inactive, another effect of the disruption field. Instead, they located an emergency ladder. Vexara climbed first, her clawed hands gripping the rungs easily. At the top, she paused, listening. She could hear voices on the other side of the door, humans talking quickly, their tones high with stress. She signaled to her soldiers. 3 of them positioned themselves on the ladder below her. On her command, she pushed the door open and rolled into the bridge, her weapons sweeping the room. Her soldiers followed in practiced formation. "Nobody move," she shouted in the human language. Her translator made her voice sound harsh and metallic. 7 humans stood frozen on the bridge. One wore the markings of a captain. Another was reaching for what might have been a weapon. Vexara aimed directly at him. "Your ship is disabled. Your communications are cut. Resistance is pointless." The human captain stepped forward, hands raised. "I am Captain Frank Winters of the UES Horizon. We are a science vessel on a peaceful mission." "You are in Thelosian space," Vexara replied. "Your ship and crew are now property of the Empire. This is neutral territory under the Galactic Compact." The captain argued. Vexara made a dismissive gesture. "The Empire recognizes no such agreement. You will order your crew to surrender, or they will be taken by force." The captain's face showed a mix of anger and resignation. After a moment, he pressed a button on the console beside him. "This is Captain Winters. All crew members, this is a direct order. Offer no resistance to the boarding party. I repeat, offer no resistance." Vexara's communication device activated. "Engine room secured, Commander," came the report from her. "Second team, 5 humans contained." "Excellent," she replied. "Continue to the science labs. Find and secure all research data." She turned her attention back to the bridge crew. "You will be processed and transported to appropriate facilities. Those with useful skills may earn better positions." The humans exchanged glances. They understood what she meant. The Empire's labor camps were notorious. Only those with valuable knowledge or abilities received better treatment. "Search them," Vexara ordered her soldiers. "Then escort them to the holding area on our ship." As the soldiers began checking the humans for weapons or hidden devices, Vexara moved to the captain's console. She accessed the ship's log, downloading it to her personal device. The research data would be valuable to Imperial intelligence. The bridge door slid open. 2 more soldiers entered, escorting 3 humans they had found elsewhere on the ship. These were attempting to destroy data in the communications center. One soldier reported. Vexara looked at the new prisoners. 2 wore the blue uniforms of technical staff. The third wore the gray and white of a communications officer. Unlike the others, whose faces showed fear or anger, this human watched her with calm, steady eyes. "Name and rank," she demanded of. "Him, Lieutenant Alan Kelly, communications officer," he replied. His voice was even controlled. Something about his composure caught Vexara's attention. Most humans showed clear fear when confronted by Thelosians. Their soft faces were easy to read, but this one seemed almost relaxed. "Were you attempting to send a distress signal, Lieutenant Kelly?" she asked. And then the human did something unexpected. He smiled at her. Not a smile of fear or submission, but something genuine and direct. "No, Commander," he said. "That would have been pointless with your disruption field active." Vexara's crest rose slightly in surprise. How did he know her rank? Few humans could distinguish the Losian insignia. "You seem well informed about our tactics," she said. "I've studied your people," Alan replied, still with that strange smile. "It's my job to understand communication patterns, including those of potential contacts." "We are not contacts. We are your captors," Vexara corrected. "Today, yes," he agreed simply. His calm confidence was unsettling. Vexara felt an unfamiliar sensation. Not anger, not suspicion, but something else she couldn't name. "Take him for special interrogation," she ordered. "Separate from the others." As they led him away, Alan Kelly looked back over his shoulder. That smile appeared again, as if he and Vexara shared some private understanding. For the first time in her career, Vexara felt a moment of uncertainty. She dismissed it quickly and continued her work. The bridge systems yielded valuable information about the ship's mission. As she suspected, they were testing new shield harmonics, technology that could be useful to the Empire. Within an hour, all 22 crew members were secured aboard the Thalos Claw. The human vessel was being prepared for towing to an Imperial outpost where it would be stripped for useful components. Vexara returned to her own bridge, satisfied with the operation's success. Yet something nagged at her. The human communications officer and his strange, confident smile. "Krell," she said to her second-in-command, "I want a full background check on one of the prisoners." "Lieutenant Alan Kelly." Krell nodded. "Yes." "Commander, is there a security concern?" "I'm not certain," Vexara admitted. "Something about him seems different." "Different how?" Krell asked. Vexara couldn't explain the feeling. "Just get me the information. I will conduct his interrogation personally." Later, in her private quarters, Vexara reviewed the prisoner manifest. The human crew would be processed according to standard protocol. Most would go to labor camps. Those with special knowledge would be interrogated thoroughly first. But Lieutenant Alan Kelly would receive her personal attention. There was something about him, his knowledge of Thelosians, his unusual calm, and that smile, that demanded closer examination. What Vexara couldn't know was that this human would be different from any prisoner she had ever interrogated before, and that his simple smile had already begun to create tiny cracks in her certainty, cracks that would soon grow into fissures that would change everything. 3 days passed since the capture of the UES Horizon. The Thalos Claw continued its patrol along the border of what humans called neutral space. The prisoners were kept in the ship's holding cells, except for Lieutenant Alan Kelly. Vexara had ordered him placed in a separate interrogation chamber. Vexara stood outside this chamber now, reviewing the information on her datapad. The background check on Kelly showed an unusual career path. He had served in Earth's diplomatic corps before transferring to fleet communications. He spoke 4 human languages and had studied xenolinguistics, a science of alien communication. This explained his knowledge of Thelosian rank insignia. She entered the chamber. It was small and dimly lit with the red lighting Thelosians preferred. A metal table stood in the center with chairs on either side. Alan Kelly sat in one chair, his hands bound to the table with energy restraints. He looked tired but unharmed. When Vexara entered, he looked up. That same calm smile appeared on his face. "Good morning, Commander," he said. "Or is it evening?" "It's hard to tell in here. Time is irrelevant during interrogation," Vexara replied. She sat across from him and placed her datapad on the table. "You have an unusual background for a communications officer. I like to think of myself as having diverse interests." Vexara's crest rose slightly. Most prisoners showed fear or defiance. This human's casual manner was strange. Why were you on a science vessel testing shield technology when your background is in diplomacy? She asked. Alan shrugged, a human gesture she recognized. Communication is important in all fields. New technology requires clear documentation and reporting. You're lying, Vexara said flatly. Your presence on that ship had another purpose. Does it matter now? You have the ship and all its data. Vexara leaned forward. It matters because I don't like puzzles, Lieutenant Kelly, and you are a puzzle. Alan's smile widened slightly. I'll take that as a compliment. It was not meant as one. They sat in silence for a moment. Vexara studied his face. Humans were so different from Thelosians. Soft skin instead of scales, rounded features instead of sharp angles, expressive faces that revealed every thought and feeling. Yet this human controlled his expressions well, showing only what he wanted her to see. Tell me about your empire, Commander, Alan said suddenly. This is not a cultural exchange, human. You answer my questions, not the reverse. But isn't understanding each other the first step toward meaningful communication? He asked. I've studied your people, but books and records only tell so much. We are not here to understand each other, Vexara said. You are a prisoner. I am your captor. And yet you're talking to me instead of using neural extractors or truth drugs, Alan pointed out. That suggests curiosity. You want to understand something. Vexara felt that strange sensation again, the one she had experienced when he first smiled at her. It was uncomfortable, like discovering a crack in armor you had always believed perfect. The Empire does not use such crude methods except as a last resort, she said. They damage the mind and make the subject less useful. Practical, Alan nodded. But there's more to it than that, isn't there? You Thelosians value strength, but also intelligence and skill. Brute force is for lesser species. His understanding of Thelosian values was surprisingly accurate. Vexara found herself nodding before she could stop. Your file says you studied our culture, she said. Why? I believe conflict often stems from misunderstanding, he replied. If we understood each other better, perhaps we wouldn't need to be enemies. Naive, Vexara said dismissively. The Empire expands because it must. Understanding changes nothing. Alan leaned forward, his eyes fixed on hers. Why must it expand? Because that is our nature. We are conquerors. Nature can be tempered by choice, he said. Humans were once conquerors too. We learned other ways to thrive. And look where it got you, captured and at our mercy. Alan smiled again, for now. His confidence should have angered her. Instead, Vexara felt that same unsettling crack widening inside her. She changed the subject. The shield technology on your vessel. What stage of development has it reached? I'm not a scientist, Commander. I couldn't tell you the technical details, but you know its purpose, she pressed. Protection, of course. Isn't that what all shields are for? Vexara's patience thinned. Stop evading my questions, human. Why was a diplomatic specialist assigned to a technical mission? Alan's expression became more serious. Perhaps because some in Earth's government believe that technology alone won't protect us. That eventually we need to find a way to talk to each other. Weakness, Vexara stated. Your people think they can negotiate with the Empire? We take what we want. And how is that working for your people, Commander? Endless war, constant vigilance against rebellion, resources poured into weapons instead of growth. Is conquest truly making the Empire stronger? The question struck Vexara with unexpected force. No one in her entire career had dared to question the Empire's fundamental purpose. The idea was so foreign that she had no ready answer. You speak dangerous words, human. Truth is often dangerous, Alan replied quietly. That's why I'm curious about you, Commander. You're different from other Thelosians I've studied. How so? Vexara asked, despite herself. You ask questions. You listen. Most Thelosian commanders would have sent me to a labor camp by now, or executed me for insolence. Vexara stood abruptly. Perhaps I still will. But they both knew she wouldn't. Something about this human and his questions had touched a part of her mind that had never been reached before. We'll continue tomorrow, she said, gathering her datapad. I look forward to it, Alan replied with that same calm smile. Outside the chamber, Vexara found Sub-Commander Krell waiting. Any useful information, Commander? He asked. Not yet, she answered. He is resistant to standard questioning. Shall I assign a specialist to extract information more forcefully? No, Vexara said too quickly. I mean, not yet. I believe my approach will yield results with time. Krell's eyes narrowed slightly. The prisoner manifest has been transmitted to High Command. They expect delivery of all captives to Processing Station 9 within 7 days. I'm aware of protocol, Sub-Commander, Vexara said coldly. Of course, Commander. I merely thought. This one prisoner seems to be consuming an unusual amount of your attention. There was a subtle challenge in his words. Vexara felt a flash of anger. Are you questioning my methods, Krell? He immediately lowered his eyes. No, Commander, never. Good, because I would hate to find a new sub-commander at this stage of our mission. The threat hung in the air between them. Krell bowed slightly and departed. Alone in the corridor, Vexara found her thoughts returning to the human's questions. Why must the Empire expand? Was conquest truly making them stronger? No one had ever asked her these things before. More disturbing still, she had no answers that satisfied her. And that simple human smile seemed to have planted a seed of doubt where none had existed before. 5 days had passed since the capture of the human vessel. Vexara spent more time with the prisoner Alan Kelly than she would admit to her officers. What had begun as interrogation sessions had evolved into something closer to conversations. She told herself it was a clever tactic to gain his trust, but deep inside, she knew there was more to it. Vexara sat in her private quarters, reviewing the daily reports. The Thalos Claw would reach Processing Station 9 in 2 days. All prisoners would be transferred there, including Lieutenant Kelly. The thought troubled her in ways she couldn't explain. Her door chimed. Enter, she called. Sub-Commander Krell stepped inside, his posture stiff and formal. Commander, we have intercepted a small human scout ship at the edge of our sensor range. Vexara stood. Show me. They walked quickly to the bridge. The main screen displayed a small vessel attempting to hide behind an asteroid field. It was using some kind of stealth technology, Officer Mev explained. But our new sensor upgrades detected its engine signature. Have you captured it? Vexara asked. Yes, Commander. It tried to escape, but our tractor beams locked on before. It could reach light speed. We have the pilot in holding cell 3. Any communications before capture? Krell shifted uncomfortably. We believe it managed to send a short burst transmission, but we couldn't intercept the content. Vingzara's crest rose in concern. Show me the scout ship's data records. Officer Drez worked his console, bringing up the information on the main screen. The ship's computer was heavily encrypted, Commander, but we broke through their security. It appears to be gathering intelligence on our patrol patterns. Vexara studied the data with growing unease. The scout had detailed information about the Thalos Claw's movements for the past week. It also contained references to something called Operation Sunrise. What is this? She demanded, pointing to a star chart with marked positions. Drez enlarged the chart. It appears to show the location of several human and Centauri vessels just beyond the edge of our sensor range. The pieces suddenly fit together in Vexara's mind. "It's a trap," she said quietly. "Commander?" Krell asked. The UE's horizon was bait, Vexara explained, her voice hardening. "They wanted us to capture it. They knew I would personally lead the boarding party. But why?" Vexara's eyes narrowed. "Bring the human prisoner Kelly to the bridge immediately." While they waited, Vexara studied the scout ship's data more carefully. The information pointed to a joint human Centauri fleet assembling just beyond their sensors. If the data was accurate, the fleet outnumbered the Thalos Claw 4-1. The bridge doors opened. 2 guards escorted Alan Kelly onto the bridge. His hands were bound, but he walked with the same calm confidence he had shown from the beginning. When he saw the scout ship data on the screen, his expression changed briefly, a flash of recognition he couldn't hide. "You knew," Vexara said. It wasn't a question. Alan said nothing, but his silence was answer enough. "You were never a simple communications officer," she continued. "You were part of this plan all along. What plan would that be, Commander?" he asked, his voice steady. Vigasara stepped closer to him. "Operation Sunrise. A trap for my ship and crew." For the first time, Alan's calm facade cracked slightly. He glanced at the screen again, then back to Vexara. "It doesn't have to be a trap," he said quietly. "It could be an opportunity." An opportunity for what? Our destruction? For change. The bridge crew watched this exchange in confused silence. Krell stepped forward. "Commander, what is this human talking about? What is happening?" Vishara ignored him, her focus entirely on Alan. "Explain yourself. Now." Alan took a deep breath. "I was sent to make contact with you, specifically, Commander Vexara. Our intelligence suggested you were different from other Thalosian leaders, capable of seeing beyond endless war." "This is treason," Krell exclaimed. "Commander, we should execute this prisoner immediately and prepare for battle." "Be silent, Sub-Commander," Vexara ordered, her voice dangerously low. To Alan, she said, "Continue. The fleet outside your sensor range is real," Alan admitted. "But its purpose depends on what happens here, now, between you and me. They are prepared for battle if necessary, but they would prefer another outcome." "What outcome?" "Dialogue. Real dialogue between our peoples. Not surrender, not conquest. Something new." Vexara felt as though the deck was shifting beneath her feet. Everything she had believed about her mission, about herself, seemed suddenly uncertain. "You lied to me," she said. Alan nodded. "About some things, yes, but not about what matters. Not about believing there could be another way forward. Not about seeing something different in you." "Commander," Krell interrupted again, "this is clearly an attempt to delay us while their fleet moves into position. We should raise shields and prepare weapons." Vexara turned to her crew. "Leave us, all of you. Clear the bridge. Commander?" Krell's voice held shock. "This is highly irregular." "That was an order, Sub-Commander," Vexara snapped. "Secure the prisoner's restraints to the command chair and leave us. Now." The crew hesitated, then obeyed. The guards secured Alan to the captain's chair and filed out with the others. When the bridge doors closed, Vexara and Alan were alone. "You have 5 minutes to convince me not to destroy your fleet," she said. "You can't destroy them," Alan replied calmly. "You're outnumbered and outgunned. That's not why I'm here." "Then why?" "Because war between our peoples will continue until someone brave enough to imagine something different steps forward." He looked directly into her eyes. "I think that someone could be you." "What you ask is impossible," Vexara said. "Even if I wanted peace, the Empire would never—" "The Empire is changing," Alan interrupted. "Surely you've seen it. Resource shortages, rebellions in the outer colonies, more military resources devoted to keeping conquered worlds in line and to new conquests. The old ways aren't working anymore. Vexara turned away. His words echoed thoughts she had pushed away for years, doubts she had never dared to voice. "What exactly are you proposing?" she asked finally. "Open a channel to the fleet. Speak with Admiral Susan Garcia. Discuss terms for a ceasefire and preliminary diplomatic talks. And if I refuse?" Alan's voice softened. "Then we fight, or die on both sides. And nothing really changes." Vexara walked to the viewport and stared out at the stars. Everything in her training told her to call her crew back, to prepare for battle, to die fighting if necessary. But the questions that had been growing in her mind since she first saw Alan's smile now demanded answers. Why must the Empire expand? Is conquest truly making us stronger? What if there is another way? She turned back to face him. If I do this, I would be branded a traitor, executed if ever captured by Imperial forces. Yes, Alan agreed simply. Change requires sacrifice. For the first time in her life, Vexara felt truly torn. The path of duty she had followed without question for her entire career now diverged. One path led to familiar territory, battle, possibly death, but with honor intact. The other led somewhere unknown, dangerous, but with the possibility of something new. And it had all begun with a simple, human smile that had somehow found a crack in her certainty. Vexara stood motionless before the viewport, her mind in turmoil. Everything in her training screamed that this was treason. Everything in her heart whispered that it might be right. "Release me," Alan said quietly. "Show trust if you want trust." In return, after a long moment, Vexara walked to the command chair and deactivated his restraints. Alan rubbed his wrists and stood slowly, careful to make no sudden moves. "Thank you," he said. Vexara moved to the communications console. "If this is some kind of deception—" "It's not," Alan assured her. "This moment has been planned for months, but its outcome was never certain. It depended on finding the right Thelosian commander, one capable of seeing beyond conquest." Vexara's clawed fingers hovered over the console. "And you believe I am that commander?" "I believe you could be," Alan replied. "The question is, what do you believe?" The door chimed. Before Vexara could respond, it slid open. Sub-Commander Krell entered, his disruptor drawn. "Step away from the console, Commander," he ordered. His weapon was aimed at Vexara, not Alan. "What is the meaning of this?" Vexara demanded, her crest rising in anger. "I've been monitoring your conversations with this human," Krell said. "I've heard enough to know you are considering treason against the Empire. Lower your weapon, Sub-Commander. That is an order." Krell's grip tightened. "I cannot obey that order. My duty is to the Empire, not to a commander who has been compromised by enemy influence." 4 more officers entered behind Krell, their weapons also drawn. Vexara realized they had planned this carefully. Her loyal officers were likely confined elsewhere on the ship. "You won't get away with this, Krell," she said. "The crew is loyal to me." "The crew is loyal to the Empire," he corrected. "As all Thelosians should be. They will understand when I explain how you were deceived by human manipulation." Alan stepped forward. "This doesn't have to end in violence." "Silence, human," Krell snarled. "You have done enough damage." To Vexara, he said, "I am relieving you of command, effective immediately. You will be confined until we return to Imperial space for trial." Vexara saw the resolve in Krell's eyes. He truly believed he was doing his duty, just as she had always believed in hers, until a human with a simple smile had made her question everything. "And what of the human fleet waiting beyond our sensors?" she asked. "We will fight, of course," Krell replied. "Die with honor if necessary. but we will not betray the Empire. In that moment, Vexara saw her past self in Krell, certain, unwavering, unable to imagine any path but conquest. She also saw the future that path would bring. More death, more war, and eventually the collapse of the empire she had served her entire life. There is another way, she said quietly. Moving with the lightning speed of her species, Vexara struck. Her hand knocked Krell's weapon aside, while her other hand activated the emergency shield protocol on her wrist device. A personal force field sprang up around her and Alan, deflecting the shots fired by the other officers. "Stay close to me," she told Alan as she pulled him toward the secondary control panel. "Commander, don't do this," Krell shouted as his officers fired uselessly at the shield. Vexara ignored him. Her fingers flew over the panel, inputting a series of commands. The ship's alarm began to sound. "What are you doing?" Alan asked. "Creating a diversion," she replied. She activated the ship-wide communication system. "Attention all crew. This is Commander Vexara. The ship has been infiltrated by shape-shifting Centauri agents. Sub-Commander Krell has been replaced. Security teams to all vital areas immediately. This is not a drill. The false alarm would cause chaos throughout the ship, giving them precious minutes." "Now we run," she said. They raced from the bridge, the shield protecting them from weapons. Fire. In the corridor, confused crew members scrambled to battle stations, believing the ship was under attack from within. In the confusion, no one stopped them. "Where are we going?" Alan asked as they ran. "Launch Bay 3, Vexara answered. "The human scout ship is docked there." They reached the launch bay just as Krell's voice came over the communication system. "Disregard previous alert. Commander Vexara has been compromised. Detain her and the human prisoner immediately." But it was too late. They reached the scout ship, concealed the hatch behind them. Vexara moved to the controls. "Can you fly this?" Alan asked in surprise. "I've studied human technology for years," she replied as her fingers moved over the unfamiliar controls. "Know your enemy, as we say in the Empire." The ship hummed to life. Outside, security teams were entering the launch bay. "They'll never let us leave," Alan said. "They won't have a choice." Vexara activated the launch sequence, then targeted the bay's force field controls. A single shot from the scout ships. Weapons disabled them. The bay depressurized instantly, forcing the security teams to retreat behind emergency bulkheads. The scout ship shot out into space. Behind them, the Thalos Claw's weapon systems were coming online. "They'll fire on us," Alan warned. "Not for long," Vexara said. She activated the communication system. "This is Commander Vexara to Human Fleet. Requesting immediate assistance. Authentication code. Sunrise." For a moment, nothing happened. Then space seemed to shimmer as multiple ships dropped out of stealth mode. A massive human battleship and 6 cruisers appeared, weapons trained on the Thalos Claw. "This is Admiral Susan Garcia of the Earth Defense Force," came a voice over the communication system. "We have you on our screens, Commander Vexara. Your authentication is confirmed." The Thalos Claw ceased targeting their small vessel. They were outnumbered and outgunned, just as Alan had said. "What happens now?" Vexara asked quietly. Alan smiled that same gentle smile that had first found the crack in her certainty. "Now we talk. Really talk for the first time." The scout ship docked with the human flagship. When they stepped onto the bridge, Admiral Garcia was waiting for them. The human officers stared at Vexara with a mixture of fear and curiosity. She was likely the first Thalosian many of them had seen up close who wasn't trying to kill them. "Commander Vexara," Admiral Garcia said, "formally, your decision today may change the course of history between our peoples. Or it may change nothing. Vexara replied honestly. The Empire will not easily abandon centuries of conquest. But it must start somewhere, Alan said, stepping to her side, with someone brave enough to imagine something different. Vexara looked at the view screen where the Thalos Claw floated, surrounded by human ships. She had lost her command, her status, potentially her life, if the Empire ever captured her. Yet somehow, she felt lighter than she had in years. I am no longer a commander, she said. That title belonged to the Empire. Then who are you now? Admiral Garcia asked. Vexara turned to Alan, whose smile had started this incredible journey. I don't know yet, but I am ready to find out. As discussions began between the former commander and the human leaders, Vexara realized that sometimes strength came in unexpected forms. Sometimes it took more courage to extend a hand than to make a fist. And sometimes the fiercest warrior could be undone by something as simple as a smile that found the hidden crack in her certainty and let the light of change shine through.